just leave it on and we'll, no, it's fine. We'll deal with that. All right. So, Tricia, if you're ready to go live there, and I'll go live on the webinar. And I'm going to be from over here, Eric, the whole time. Sure. All right. All right.
Have you gone live with the Zoom?
Not yet.
Already gone live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our third day of National Crime Victims' Rights Week, our webinar series. Today is Wednesday, and we're glad that you could be joining us again. Today we have with us people from the state police and the Department of Public Safety here in New Mexico. They're going to be talking about how they help victims of rural crime. We're going to go ahead and get started with them. I'm going to turn it over to Captain Eric Shum.
Welcome. My name is Eric Shum. I'm a captain in the New Mexico State Police. I've had a lot of different jobs during my time in the state police. Currently, I'm stationed in Santa Fe, and I oversee about 25 narcotics and task force agents throughout the state. We've been asked to speak today about how our department does two things. One, how we devote resources to rural parts of the state, and two, how we help victims. With me today, I have Susan Torres. She's a victim advocate and the leader of our victim assistance program. Her group works with victims after the investigation is over, and she'll talk a little bit about that. I also have Captain Troy Velasquez and Lieutenant Alvino B. Hill. Both have worked in various positions in our department, and both are now part of what's called the community engagement team, and they can talk a little bit about that. I grew up in Albuquerque. It was an adjustment when I finished the academy and was placed in my first duty station, a little town called Cimarron, which has a population of about 800 people, and it's over 200 miles from Albuquerque. When I was up there, I used to love going to Raton. Raton is the big city in the area. That's the reason I love going there. At that time, Raton had a population of about 7,000 people. It also had a 24-hour Denny's, and it seemed like Paris compared to where I was living. And that gives you some idea of just how rural Cimarron is. As the years went by, I worked in other rural areas. I spent a few years in Las Vegas, New Mexico, a few years in Gallup, and a short time in Espanola. It took me, a city boy, a long time to realize how important our role is in rural New Mexico. Although it was tough, feeling lonely and isolated, living in those places, working in those places, I look back now and I'm proud to be part of this department, this team that is able to send people out into the far reaches and desolate corners of our state and provide a competent and respectful service. Anyway, I thank you for giving us some of your attention today, and I'll turn it over now to our first speaker, victim advocate Susan Torres.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here today on this very important Crime Victims' Rights Week. My name is Susan Torres, and I have been with the New Mexico State Police since 2019. I've been with the state of New Mexico for almost 17 years. 11 of those years have been in direct victim services. So I definitely have a passion for this week every year and every day for victims. I wanted to talk a little bit about victim services that we have in place for the New Mexico State Police. I am the Victim Advocate Service Coordinator Supervisor. In 2016, we were approved through the Victims of Crime Act grant for 2 victim advocates for the New Mexico State Police and Department of Public Safety. We identified 2 areas of need in our communities that needed the support for law enforcement advocacy, and that was Valencia County in our District 5 area and Rio Arriba County in our District 7 area. Those advocates worked until 2019 when we were approved for 2 more positions, and we created a supervisor position, and third area need identified was San Miguel County, which was our District 2. Law enforcement victim advocacy is extremely unique in that we can make contact with the victim on scene and or very shortly after a crime has been committed. So we're able to work with the victims and their families for resources and support immediately after. Our agents and officers refer cases to us in those areas, and we will make contact right away. Many of the crime cases that the DA's office prosecutes, the 17 enumerated crimes, we also assist on. Those can be anything from homicide cases where we will contact the family members, assist with grief counseling support and information. We assist with getting them information to OMI, getting them priority processing through the victims of crime compensation application. We also work with our domestic violence cases. We can assist with shelter support, immediate resources for transportation, orders of protection. We can also assist with counseling and therapy for victims and attending court hearings with them for their civil orders of protection. We assist with crimes against children cases, assisting with CYFD information, getting kiddos to and from their safe house for forensic interviewing, many resources and support for them also. Also sexual assault victims for SANE and Rape Crisis Center information. The point of law enforcement advocacy is really to get victims as soon as things happen to make sure that they have all of the tools and resources that they need to get through this. We work very closely with our officers and our agents to make sure that we have all of the information to be kind of that buffer between our victims and survivors and families and the investigation process. The point is to make sure that they have all the resources and support they need and then provide a warm handoff to our next agency, usually victim advocates at the district attorney's office, shelter victim advocates, make sure that they have someone every step of the way. We work with the Crime Victims Reparation Commission to make sure that applications are submitted to help with compensation eligibility for victims of crime. We work with the VINE program, which is the Victim Information Notification System, to make sure that if a suspect is arrested on a case that the victim is notified when that suspect is going to be released and removed. We work with the CAT program with the Secretary of State's office to provide safe confidential addresses, the CARE program through the animal control to make sure that pets and animals are safe and are staying in foster care for at least 3 months while victims find good and safe places to be. So we work with many partnering agencies in the communities that we serve currently. And we're just definitely happy to be here and know that if we can get support for victims immediately, and they know all of the things that are out there, that is just that much better for them. So thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Lieutenant Albino Vigil of New Mexico State Police. I'm in charge of the recruiting and community engagement team. We started this program, community engagement, almost about 3 years ago. We do both community engagement and recruiting. That team consists of a lieutenant, 1 sergeant, and 6 officers. We also utilize district recruiters in each district. Since we're a big state, we have offices all throughout the state districts. We work with the district recruiters to help when we can't get there. My team's mostly out of Albuquerque. We do have 1 up north in Chama, and then we have another officer down in Las Cruces. So today I'm going to talk to you about state police recruiting, community engagement. We're building that gap. We're building that gap between the community and law enforcement. It's a collaboration just between us and the community to build these trust, to build partnerships, to determine problems, to fix anything that this community may need. we're working with city officials, we work with other law enforcement agencies, just support groups, homeless shelters. We've done a little bit of everything. So we're open to any type of events. We help these rural communities with school presentations. Just there's really no limit, right? It's if somebody needs something, we're going to reach out. We're going to help them. So one of the events that we've done in the past was it's called a Stronger Together event. So during this event, we would bring everyone together. So we would host a self-defense tactics for women. It was open to everyone, but we mostly focused on women. So we bring in defensive tactic trainers. They would help out with teaching self-defense techniques. We'd have a mat, we'd get a gym. Maybe we do that on a Friday or a Saturday. On that Friday before, we were at the schools and we're engaging with the schools, all kids from kindergarten all the way to 9th grade. And we're talking about bullying, vaping, drugs, just any little thing just to get that information out to these schools. So we do big presentations for the schools, and we would bring in all of our resources. So we have narcotics agents coming in, we have self-defense instructors coming in, uniformed personnel, my team, just everybody. It takes the whole community to make something like this work. So we reach out to vendors, business owners, say, hey, can you guys help out? And a lot of these businesses and stuff will help in the rural communities. They want to see this stuff done. And then they want to see state police and all their big toys and all their equipment come out and show their little town. So we've been in the smallest cities in the state, and we've done good things. During these Stronger Together events, we would also, at the end of the event, we would host like a city forum. So during these forums, we'd bring in city officials, business owners, all departments. So state police were law enforcement for the state. So we really don't go into the cities, but some of these cities, we are the law enforcement. So we team up with Espanola, for example. We have Espanola PD there. We have the county sheriff, the county there, Rio Arriba County also present, and state police. And not only people from my team would be there, but we would bring the officers that live in those districts, that work in those districts, because those are the guys and girls that are in there. They're dealing with people. They know the community. So they're the ones that are helping out the most. So we bring them all together and just go through issues like, hey, what are your issues are you having here in Espanola or here in Tucumcari? And it could be small to them. Like one of the business owners in Espanola, he was like, hey, we have people in our parking lot after hours and we're just making it a mess. So that's easy for us. Okay, we send an officer to drive through in the evenings and just make sure we're clearing up the parking lot, making sure they're not trashing it out. So it's just little things like that, and that goes a long ways for some of these people in these communities. You can go ahead. We also have, so like I said, we it's not just my team. I have 6 guys. These 6 guys can't be everywhere at once. So we have district recruiters in each district. We have officers throughout the state that are just willing to help out. So they maybe know somebody that, hey, can you come do a presentation at this school for me? So we send an officer from the district and they knock out a presentation. We give them some handouts and we just make it work with what we got. So we're always willing to help out in these rural communities. We like helping rural communities because that's what it's all about. It's not about being here in Albuquerque and doing everything here in Albuquerque. It's about the whole state. Like I said, we're just going back. We're improving relationships between police and the public. We're trying to accomplish same goals, just to protect people and property. Community engagement creates opportunities for positive interactions with kids, with social media, with everybody. We're also just at these events, we're also recruiting, right? We're at schools and these kids see something, hey, I saw the state police, or I want to be a state police officer. So that goes hand in hand with that. Or we're out in the public, we're feeding at Walmart, and we're cooking hamburgers for the public, and they're like, how much are the hamburgers? Oh, they're free. So then we're just feeding people, just interacting with the community. So it's a good thing. Just developing those relationships between people and the NMSP in a positive way. But that's all I have. Thank you guys for joining today.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
coming.
Thank you.
Okay, so we were asked to speak for an hour. I think we've gone for 16 minutes. So, you know, mostly we're talking in generalities. I can give one example that comes to the top of my head about how we actually help in rural areas. And then I think Susan Torres can give another example. And that may help the audience really understand what we do on a daily basis. I mentioned that I was stationed in Gallup for a few years. So there was a case that came up a few years ago where the basic allegation, of course, there was more details, but basically it was alleged that there was an older gentleman who would drive by school bus stops and ask young boys to get into his car, saying that he would take them to school. When they got into his car, he would do bad things to them. So this had happened several times. One of the cases came to us because it happened outside of the Gallup city limits. And speaking of rural areas, if you can find Gallup on a map and then look down south to a place called Rama on the map, this supposed incident happened right in between those two cities. So that's pretty much out in the middle of nowhere as you can get. But there is a school bus stop out there, and it was our job to look into this and do the best we could. So we talked to the boy, in our case, who had got into this suspect's car. And he didn't have a whole lot of details, but I remember that, you know, the one thing that he said, which was unique, was he said that when he was in the car, he saw these M&M dolls. And it's like these dolls, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but it's like an M&M candy, right? So, but it's a doll of that. So it's like an M&M, but it has arms and legs, and it's like waving hi to you, and it has a face on it. So that kind of stuff is gold to us because it's unique. How would he know that, right? So working with my team, we got a search warrant for the suspect's car, and we went down there out in the middle of nowhere, found this car, opened it up, and what do you think we found when we opened it up? Great. It was great for our case. Right there, like pegged to the dashboard, was this M&M doll, red M&M with an arm waving like this and a smiley face. And there were a few more like that in the glove box and in the console. And that case was complicated because that suspect had several different cases pending against him at the same time. What complicated the case even more was tribal jurisdiction. That area between Gallup and Rama, literally like 1 square mile could be state land, the next square mile could be tribal land, and it kind of switches back and forth like that. So we did all that work. We eventually had to turn it over to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and that suspect went to prison. So we helped in that case. It was a rural area out in the middle of nowhere, but just because people are in a rural area in the middle of nowhere, that doesn't mean that criminals have a free ride. We take pride in cases like that because we got out there and did the best we could. And said that suspect did go to prison on that. I think Susan Torres may have another example. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Working at the district attorney's office in Albuquerque, obviously Albuquerque has a ton of resources right at their disposal. Working in some of the more rural counties where they don't have resources like transportation, shelters that are close by, places for them to stay, it makes law enforcement advocacy extremely unique in that we can assist with things like transportation. I had a domestic violence case out of Torrance County, a little trailer in the middle of nowhere, Torrance County between Edgewood and Moriarty area, a husband and wife and 3 kiddos. There was DV in the home, and mom had very little resources, no family and friends, no real support. And she finally had the strength to call police and make a report. That suspect was arrested, but that left her and her kiddos without resources, without money to come home to every night. They had no food or heat or water in the home because the bills were just not being paid. And she lived like this for a really long time. Kiddos got taken care of at school as best they could, but that wasn't real support on nights and weekends. Once that call was made, the referral was made by our law enforcement to us. I was able to drive out to this area and meet with mom and kiddos. She had a vehicle that was no longer working, and we were able to get her some resources in Torrance County for some support, for some help with her vehicle. We were able to secure emergency funding. Crime Victims Reparation will help with crime victims funding up to $2,000, and we were able to get her cell phone paid. We were able to get her next month's rent paid, as well as getting her out of arrears and into P&M and gas, making sure that all of that stuff is turned on. We were able to transport kiddos to school just so she could have resources and support to be able to get to the places that she needed to, and some resources with looking for jobs. All of those things we were able to work with her in making sure that she had what she needed. If she needed to go to shelter, we could have done that too, but she was able to stay in her home with all of the various resources that were out there. I have worked with her for at least a year since then, just making sure, checking in on her, making sure she had the things that she needed. She also was signed up for Vine. So if he got out of custody, she would be able to know, and we had a plan for next steps for that. She has been very successful with all of the resources in the community that they have been able to help her and her kiddos with. But those are kind of the things that we can provide in more rural counties. If someone lives somewhere where there's not a forensic interviewing location, we can assist with transportation. We can assist with whatever food and shelter locations are available, even if they're far away. Whereas Albuquerque and your bigger populated cities, they have things pretty close by. When you're living out in the middle of nowhere in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and you don't have a car to get to places, but you need to go for a counseling appointment, or you need to get some services at the hospital, and they're related to a crime, we as law enforcement advocates can assist with that. I can't stress enough how important law enforcement advocates are to be able to give the information right away to make sure that there is the most successful outcome for people that have experienced crime. So, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I hope that was helpful and entertaining, and I hope it gives the audience a little window into what we do on a daily basis. We're open to any questions or comments now, if there are any.
Yeah, we have a few. So the first question is for any one of you, and they want to know whether labor or sexual trafficking is more or less prevalent in rural communities compared to larger cities. And does state police do trafficking investigations?
I personally have not done any of those investigations. I don't know if I know enough to really speak authoritatively on that. Captain Velasquez, do you want to talk on that?
Hi, good afternoon, Captain Velasquez. So sex trafficking, historically, yes, we have seen investigations in rural areas and rural communities more prevalent than in larger cities. And a lot of that has to just do with the reporting. In a bigger city, it's going to take a little bit more time for somebody to come up missing, right? And or a lot of people leave home and they move to the big cities. So if they're missing or trafficked from the big cities, we're not going to know right away. Okay, another thing that plays into a factor in New Mexico is a lot of our tribal communities which have tribal casinos. The casinos are in rural areas, and we've seen in recent years the casinos have become a hub, as you would say, for truck drivers and people passing through, and so these become places where we see this trafficking going on. So we're able to assist, whether or not it's in our jurisdiction. We'll assist BIA or FBI with those missing persons cases or those traffic cases, or assist those agencies.
Thank you. And this question is for you, Susan. You mentioned the Vine network in your presentation. Someone just wants to know what that is.
Sure.
Could you explain a little more?
Absolutely. Vine is the Victim Information Notification System. It's web-based, so anybody can get onto the Vine website. Basically, you log into vinelink.com, I believe, and I can get that for you. You select the state that you're in. You will put the name of the suspect. If someone is in custody, if that jail or prison is connected to Vine, it will pop up that individual, and then you can sign yourself up via text message, email, or phone call to be notified and get an alert from the jail or prison if that suspect is going to be released and or moved within the within being in custody. Anybody can sign up. Anytime we have a case, any type of case where a suspect is arrested or multiple suspects are arrested, we will sign up whoever wants to be signed up, not only the victim, but family members if they'd like, and ourselves as well as victim advocates. So we will both get a notification when a suspect is going to be released or moved, and we can make contact with the victim to make sure that they have a safety plan, or if there's any questions or something that we need to then bring to someone else's attention. So it's an automatic notification to whoever would want to be set up to be released to be notified of release from custody.
Thank you. And Lieutenant, I think this question is for you. This person just wants to know about recruiting and some of the requirements for state police.
Recruiting requirements are 21 years of age. You don't have to have a college degree, but we do require 2 years. Within 2 years, you get 30 college credit hours. 60 college credit hours, sorry. We'll give you 30 at the academy. And they can go to joinnmsp.com. We have all the info on our website. And we look forward to hopefully recruiting that person if they want to. Give me a call.
Thank you, Lieutenant. And Susan, this question is for you. When victims of sexual crimes are from rural communities, how easy is it to access all the resources that are readily available in bigger cities, in more urban areas?
It's not easy, which is why part of the reason why I think it's so crucial to have law enforcement advocates. We will make contact with the victim on scene or shortly thereafter and make sure that they're aware of all of the resources for whatever crime is happening. In this particular case, sexual assault has SANE, which is the Sexual Assault Nurse Examiners located in Albuquerque, but there are SANE nurses that go to the local hospitals throughout the state. So if someone needed a sexual assault exam, we would make sure and locate the SANE nurse in their area. If they did not have transportation, we could assist them with that. Otherwise, we would make sure that they have the information for Rape Crisis Center. They're online and over the phone. They also are located throughout the state. So we would, like any case in rural areas, we will find the closest location to them and would assist with transportation, but making sure that they also had all of the resources that they needed, both over the phone, online, and in person, and assist them with doing all of that as well.
Thank you. And Captain Shum, this one's for you. This person just wants to know which of the places you live was your favorite.
Which place was my favorite? The great thing about living in these rural areas is, I've lived in places I would never live if it wasn't for this job. I have to say, probably my favorite, although it's a close call, would be Gallup. A lot of people have passed through Gallup on the way somewhere else. Maybe they're going to the Grand Canyon or driving to California. And Gallup is pretty much the place where they stop to use the bathroom and get a snack and keep going on. But I moved to Gallup, and I moved there with my wife. We rented a house in downtown Gallup. Yes, there is a downtown Gallup. It's actually pretty nice for a few blocks anyways. But we stayed there 3.5 years. And by the time, and also one of the reasons it's my favorite is my daughter was born there. And I remember when my daughter was about to be born, I would talk to people about it, and they would all, for the most part, kind of just assume we would drive to Albuquerque for the birth. And me and my wife were unified, and we said, no, there's no reason to do that. There's a hospital here in Gallup, and so there you go. My daughter was born in Gallup, so we're always going to be tied to Gallup in that way. But we stayed there 3.5 years, and by the time we left, you know, like I said, we lived downtown, so we could walk to the library, walk to restaurants. And by the time we left, we would walk around town, and almost every time we did that, we would see people we knew, and we'd stop to chat, or if they were driving by, they would just say hi. And I was always amazed at the number of good and interesting people in a small place like Gallup. So that's probably my favorite.
Thank you. This person wants to know how valuable would a mobile SANE unit be to the state, especially with some of the SANE locations. For those of you who don't know, SANE is Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner. They were just wondering if it would be a valuable resource to have.
I think that, I mean, if SANE nurses are nurses that are specifically trained to conduct sexual assault exams and collect evidence, obviously a mobile, all resources that were mobile would be amazing to have, especially in rural communities. It is set up like a hospital room in that there's a ton of information that they need to collect and computerized equipment. And I think that it would be absolutely amazing if that was something that we could do. Ultimately, the fact that they do go to most of the hospitals in the state of New Mexico and or travel, or you can go to a location, I think is helpful. But if SANE nurses were able to do something mobile, I think obviously that would be amazing for those smaller communities where you wouldn't have to travel too far. Absolutely.
Thank you. And this question is for any one of you. How does someone know which agency to contact? How do they contact state police if they live in a rural location and need to file a complaint?
So I don't have the exact numbers, right, for non-emergency complaints, and maybe we can get them posted later on the site. But the best practice is, when in doubt, you can call 911, right? And then they're going to direct you to, if this is a non-emergency, they're going to direct you to another number. Now, know that if you call 911, okay, and you're in a rural area, it's designed, if there's no law enforcement services in that area, it'll go to our dispatch directly. Okay, if there is law enforcement services like county or a small town PD or whatever have you, it'll go there. Now, on some places like the interstates, I-40 and I-25, those 911 calls go directly to our dispatch. And so most of the times what happens is you'll call your local department, they'll vet the case, and usually they'll come out first if they have the resources. And then when they need help, if it's a little bit too big, they'll call us to help them out.
Thank you, Captain. And someone wants to know if they can request state police to respond instead of the local police department.
Yeah, you can always get state police requested. And like I said, you can call our dispatch directly, right? We'll get those numbers posted for you guys. We have 3 communication centers in New Mexico, a northern communication center here in the central and then down south. If you call those dispatch centers directly and you're requesting our service, state police, we're not going to refuse you. Our dispatch is going to assign that call to an officer and they'll go. The only exception would be if you live on established tribal land. If you live on established tribal land, they're going to give that call back to the tribal police department that has jurisdiction and or BIA first in order to figure out which way that call is going to go.
Thank you. All right, well, that's all the questions that we have. And I don't know if any of you want to give any closing remarks.
I guess I can close it out. And like I said a few minutes ago, I just hope that this gave the audience a little window into what we do and how we can help. And also I hope it was entertaining. So I appreciate everyone's attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before we go, just want to remind everyone that we will be here again tomorrow. We'll be talking about Stuart Christ and the research that we do and looking back on the year 2020 for cases of faith-based abuse. So be sure to join us tomorrow at 12 p.m. Mountain Time. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. We all
Nobody has anything to be on.
Yeah.